Okay. A warm welcome to all the distinguished panel members, audience, and the organizers, CII, for this session 2 of the Logistics Summit. In this session, we will be exploring the different parts of logistics productivity for the Indian component economy with focus on visibility. Okay. Indian logistics industry is supposed to grow at a CAGR of 10% from $200 billion in 2020 to $320 billion in 2025. Okay. However, pandemic has created certain uncertainties and brakes on the growth of this particular industry for all players in this sector, starting from shipper to the transportation company and agents, warehouse providers, clearing and insurance agents, and end customer dealers. All of them have to adapt and adopt newer processes and mechanisms to cater to the realities. Logistics is almost like the lifeline of Indian economy, synonymous to the circulatory system of human body. And unless it is actually adapting and adopting to newer realities of life, the economic growth of the country itself will get impacted. Now, let's see how are the changes happening in different sections of the logistics industry. In warehousing sector, the entire inventory management norms are going for change. Okay, as you know, there are mainly two types of commodities which are moving around in the supply chain. One is the essential items, which include food items, oil, and all those items which are essential for this one. And second is discretionary spend items, and both their way the items are behaving in the market is coming for a change. For essential items, due to uncertainties in the supply chain and demand, inventory norms are getting revised for improving the availability of the products in the market. Whereas for non-essential items, the product mix and the inventory stocking norms are also changing. So in warehousing, there is a lot of shake-up happening with respect to inventory management, which is the reality of the day. On the transportation front, a lot of interesting decisions are being taken right now, which is not the case in the past. The earlier trend was on consolidation and efficiency, but now the decisions being taken by the transportation providers are the right uses of LTLs, milk runs, full truckloads, so that the serviceability of the market is actually getting improved. The last mile transportation is being taken by specialized companies now, who will actually operate through EVs, etc., for the sustainability aspects also. Also, we have seen an increased prominence of railways in the freight movement in the country, and a lot of companies are actively adopting railways as one of their modes of logistics. So what are the imperatives we have to look at it from a logistics perspective? All the players in the market has to look at it. There are two parts to it. One is an internal one, and second is the external one. On the internal one, there has to be an effective coordination between warehousing and transport functions. The second one is the demand and the product mix, which is happening, which is altering at every point of time, and all companies must have the ability to cope up with the same. The third important factor is when you are doing logistics planning, you have to plan for contingency and risk. Contingency and risk is more and more happening at the present world. So a planning which is not taking about contingency and risk is always doomed for failure. There are also certain external facets to it. The capacity of logistics is vastly increasing with respect to truckers and trucking companies, etc. But certain parts of the supply chain, including availability of cost-effective drivers, okay, very simple thing, is actually reducing the capacity available in the market. Last but not the least, the cost of transport, fuel, electricity, spares, inventory, insurance, all those things are on the rise in an inflationary economy. So companies have to cater to that particular part of it also. All these things will be possible if you are able to use the right elements of technology enablement into the whole supply chain. Technology innovation is key to survival, differentiation, and success of all players. And I have purposefully used it in that particular sequence, survival, differentiation, and success, because many players in this particular industry may not survive in the next 2 to 3 years. The focus of technology is, however, changing. The focus of technology at this moment is digitalization, visibility, and collaboration. So wherever people are able to digitalize their particular paperwork, digitalize their logistics network, wherever people are able to provide visibility to all the players in the market and allow for data flow to happen between multiple players, and an element of collaboration between multiple players are very key for the success of that particular player. Okay, so that's the focus in changing from visibility, data exchange, and collaboration, which are the key pillars of technology enablement, which will take the logistics industry into the next fold. That sums it up for the next presentation of the session. I invite Mr. Jason Jameson, Senior Vice President of HERE Technologies, to come and address on how technology solution from his company can address some of the challenges in the logistic industry of India. HERE Technologies are leaders in location awareness and platform in the world, and he will try to give a bird's eye view of how their offerings is going to help reduce the complexities of logistics function and bring effectiveness into the value chain. Post that session, we will go to discuss some of the main points in this particular industry to improve productivity in a panel discussion, addressing different shining examples in India. What are the policy guidelines we need to do for enhancing it further, and how we can actually achieve the newer targets of KPI across the country. Mr. Jason Jameson, can you just start your presentation right now?
Will do. Thanks, Mr. Pillai. All right, I'll just share my screen and then we'll kickstart this. All right, hopefully you can all see that. So look, firstly, let me add my welcome to everyone here to the CII Logistics Summit. I think that was a very good introduction by Jay. As Jay said, my name's Jason Jamison. I'm the Senior Vice President and General Manager for Asia Pacific at HERE Technologies, and I'm really honored to share with you today how location intelligence can enable the logistics journey through real-time supply chain visibility. Now, it's clearly a very topical subject given the current global situation as countries and their economies are emerging post-pandemic. There's lots of pressures on demand coinciding with the supply constraints we just heard about, backlogs, etc. And this is all putting enormous pressure on logistics supply chains. And while logistics constraints and challenges aren't new, the scale of the issues are very significant. But there is some good news in all of this. A silver lining on the dark clouds is that we can address many of these challenges by using technology to deliver better end-to-end real-time supply chain improvements. So if I move on, a little bit of a story about HERE, an overview. HERE Technologies is a location data and technology platform company. So what we produce is basically a digital representation of reality. It's a living, dynamic, and continuously updating representation. And this representation of reality is the basis for us and our customers to understand how people and places and things all connect together. So here is, at the core of our business is location. And we've had over 35 years of experience in map making. We're recognized in the industry as a #1 location and data and technology platform company by industry analyst firms like Omdia, Counterpoint Research, and just last week, Strategy Analytics rated us as #1. And this is ahead of all the other players like Google and others. So we have a very large community of developers and it's growing. We have 500,000 direct developers and over 2 million indirect developers through our other developer ecosystems such as AWS and Azure. And if you look at some of the more specific stuff, operate at very large scale. We've got data sets, maps for over 200 countries, 37,000 plus 3D landmarks. We process 100 billion API calls a month, where our maps are installed in 160 million cars globally. There's 200 million plus points of interest, 141 million 3D building footprints, and 34 million plus vehicles providing us real-time sensor data and probe data. So we're in the game of managing a lot of data and this digital representation that I talked about. We have a global presence. We're founded in 1985. We have over 7,000 employees, offices in 56 countries, which is a strong presence in a lot of local markets. And we have a very strong presence in India for the past decade plus, in 3 major cities. We have offices, multiple offices. And in fact, over 50% of HERE's workforce globally is based in India. So we've got core competencies of engineering, IT, product, and sales, all distributed across India. We do get recognized, not only by the leading industry analyst firms, but also as an employer of choice. The last 6 consecutive years, he has been recognized as one of India's best workplaces in IT. So moving on, customers and partners within the HERE ecosystem. We have is a snapshot here of over 1,300 plus customers that we have. We count almost every major car company as a customer, plus many tier 1 companies globally and solution providers. So we work with numerous national, state, and regional transportation agencies and traffic management centers. We work with fleet and on-demand companies. We work with GIS and geospatial specialists. We work with telcos, and of course, we work with broad conglomerates. So hopefully that's given you a bit of a background about who we are and the business I represent here in APAC. Now, let me move to today's topic around end-to-end visibility within logistics and supply chains. And I'd really like to start with some of the top of mind challenges that we all come across in the industry. And so, this is, I hope, a very simple summary from left to right. First thing, improve real-time visibility. This is the where. Where is something at any given time? Sort of moving to the next as we move from left to right. This is about optimizing inventory management, right? So that's ensuring we have the right assets at the right moment in time. So it's where and when. The next part of the chart is really reducing risk and improving resilience throughout the supply chain, right? We know that we're moving from this, in a lot of cases, the just-in-time model to a just-in-case model. Because resilience is necessary to ensure that disruptions are minimized. Next thing is we're seeing dynamics around cold chain and smart storage monitoring, certainly for specific goods. We've seen with COVID vaccine rollouts the need to maintain, in some cases, very intensive cryogenic conditions. But this applies to food, pharmaceutical, wine, you name it. The next part is, reducing costs, right? And optimizing capacity for better business outcomes. There's obviously a lot of pressure at this point. We could spend the whole day talking just about this. And I know we'll see a lot more of companies' efforts to reduce costs and optimize capacity. And technology can absolutely play a key part here. And ultimately, there's the broader aspirations around meeting sustainability and decarbonization targets. Now, this is certainly a global topic. We're seeing it pop up in many parts of APAC, in government policy, legislation. This is indicative of what we can expect. Even if you're operating in India, if you have interactions globally, these will be some of the considerations to play out. Now, as I said, these challenges can be solved. To do this, the industry has really seen the need to transform and digitize operations. And my view firmly is that location technology can help connect the dots across this ecosystem. So look, moving on, let's take a look at how location intelligence can help, in all stages of the logistics journey. Now, this is just a very simplified view. At the start of the journey, it's all about planning. And the reason you plan is because you want to improve things like on-time performance and efficiency by doing dynamic route optimization. So really, this is solving the challenge of going from A to B, which is often needs to be via C, D, and E. Then sort of moving on to execution, this is about providing real-time multimodal shipment visibility. This is across the different modes of transportation, ensuring that the handoffs happen and awareness of those handoffs, and identifying in the process any possible disruptions that might happen and avoiding them along the way actively. And then providing real-time ETAs and ETDs, so the notifications on arrival and departure times, etc. Then finally, there's the analytics piece. And this is really about deriving insights post-trip using predictive data analytics and applying these for future business improvement. A lot of the innovation you can get in supply chain is by analyzing the data using AI, ML, data scientists to review location where and when, so that those insights can be then fed back into optimization of the logistics chain. If I look at here's portfolio, the solutions we have, really what we're all about is trying to power safer and more efficient deliveries from the first mile all the way through to the last mile. And if you think about it in a nutshell, what location intelligence solutions here provides can do is, number one, help plan the best routes. Number two, avoid impending hazards ahead and as they come up in real time. And then three, improve performance and safety across those multimodal supply chains that I talked about before. So you can see in this overview chart, the package solutions which are delivered with the HERE platform that help solve specific needs of the supply chain, from planning to execution to analysis. And I'll briefly talk through a few of these that are pertinent for today's discussion. HERE Tour Planning. That's a multi-vehicle route optimization service. Basically optimizes the transport plans according to specified optimization goals. For example, you could look at vehicle cost or distance and duration costs, etc. The next one is the HERE Shipment Tracking, and that's a service providing that end-to-end visibility and predictive ETA of shipments through a mesh of location, IoT, and carrier data. The next one is ETA as a service down the bottom there. And that's a cloud-based service, which is designed to leverage both location and operational data to offer a predictive way to estimate the correct times of arrival. HERE Yards is another one that improves efficiency by physically mapping business sites, warehouses and distribution centers and the yards where goods are stored, which can be used to increase driver throughput, work out which gates are the best ones to go in and out of, where there's latency, etc. And that improves the inbound logistics and safety, reduces dwell time, missed slots, and helps to reduce costs as well. And then the other one is a CO2 Insights. And this is a new commercial fleet analytics tool that predicts the amount of carbon dioxide emissions per route. It considers factors such as vehicle and fuel type, the traffic conditions, the road network's physical attributes. And really, the CO2 Insights tool recommends the most appropriate commercial vehicle with the most appropriate engine, be it diesel, electric, biogas or hydrogen, to produce the least CO2 emissions for any given route. So, there's a rich suite. I mean, I've only covered a few of those. There's many others, but these all come together to provide that end-to-end visibility. So let me make it real. And I'd like to share a customer reference. This is about Siemens Healthineers, and they're a leading medical device company. They've been in business, you can trace them back to actually 1847. They've got over 66,000 employees in more than 70 countries, including India, obviously. And their challenge was linked to the complexity of coordinating and tracking spare parts of time-critical and high-value medical equipment like MRI machines that they make and a bunch of others. And, they had four key modal supply chain. They have to have this daily coordination with multiple multimodal forwarders globally. Number two, they had a real lack of real-time visibility. So they couldn't see easily delivery status and shipment condition information, deliveries to the wrong business locations, etc. Daily coordination with sorry, I just did some noise there. Can you guys hear me okay still? Yep. Okay, good. There was also, wasted technicians' time, which is searching, spending time searching for spare parts in huge hospitals and delays in delivery and installation. And the fourth thing is significant costs and risks, right? With excessive downtime or unreliable SLAs, so service levels, dead on arrival shipments, and just driving the right level of utilization of these expensive equipments and helping ensure that people can have their operations and medical treatments when they need to happen. So what did we do? We worked with them to design a shipment visibility solution, which was tracking and monitoring around location, condition, and ETAs. And that brought real-time end-to-end visibility into the outbound supply chain. And to do this, we really installed a smart sensor tracking device. And that is, has really enabled complete shipment condition monitoring with global connectivity and the ability even to record data when it was offline. So it's using here tracking technology. And so now the Siemens Healthineers customer service engineers are able to track the location of their service parts during transit and after delivery in a hospital and monitor their condition in real time. Another example, and this is looking at within APAC, and this is with Yogi, and they're a logistics platform which facilitates the flow of freight movements into a single ecosystem. And in fact, Yogi presented their solution during the last CII Global Supply Chain Summit in April this year, covering what's a pretty critical topic around supply chains called smart warehousing. And so we've partnered with them, and here was their challenge. A warehouse manager wants visibility. What kind of visibility? Well, it's visibility related to warehouse, including access to information about inbound shipments, inventory levels in the warehouse, and then information about orders, right? Such as when an order was received or picked or shipped, or whether it's in stock or if it's been put on hold for some reason. Where are the equipment? Where are the goods located amongst all the aisles? And if you add up all these, including manpower, scheduling, the material handling equipment, assets within the warehouse, there are lots of factors that need to be tracked and monitored, and having even basic visibility and awareness helps reduce a lot of extra effort in operations, management, the work shifts. So how can we, as here with location technology, support a customer such as Yogi? Well, the first thing is that if you look here, there are numerous ways. When we look at a typical warehouse scenario, we can create a layer of real-time information and location intelligence on top of standard warehouse management systems. So operators can really make proactive decisions and saving costs and boosting service levels. And that real-time data, you know where the zone check-ins are for the goods. This helps with KPIs, a 10 to 30% improvement in order dispatch and, dock-to-dock time. You're able to secondly see movements of people and equipment, and that can help reduce and optimize manpower up to 20 to 30%. And then thirdly, real-time notifications, and this improves efficiency. And we're seeing reductions in idle time of 15 to 30%. And these are really big numbers if you think about it. And as you can analyze and manage operational efficiency and capacity through a dashboard on trends and heat maps to visualize busy zones. And all of this can help to improve safety as well, up to 10 to 20%. Another example I'd like to bring to your attention is the partnership we have with Amazon Web Services. So here Technologies and AWS recently announced, actually in May this year, a multi-year strategic collaboration to help organizations improve their supply chain visibility, for transportation logistics, fleet routing and ETAs from first to last mile. So really here is extending the AWS marketplace with our supply chain solutions that are utilized by transportation logistics companies globally. And additionally, he is working with AWS to jointly bring to the market advanced capabilities for T&L participants to leverage, such as warehouse and yard management, the predictive ETAs and CO2 fleet emission solutions. All right, so really kind of wrapping up here, and before we move to the panel discussion, I'd like to leave you with two takeaways. Number one, here technology's experience, right? We are the solid foundation, right? We provide a solid foundation with our global platform and ecosystem. And that lies in our 3 decades of experience in the industry around location technology. We built the first digital map, and we've been leading the way on a digital representation reality ever since. And, we're the trusted partner of many customers across the industry, and they've counted on us for a very long time. The second thing is partnership and innovation. At our company, my company wants to actively help you make the best out of the opportunities of location technology to enable all your logistics use cases. So we're here to partner up, to co-develop, to co-create. And really the focus is all about you, the customer, your business. And this will help enable your use cases and enable your success. So I'll look forward to your questions. There's a QR code here to get a white paper on a study we did with Frost & Sullivan last year on the state of movement. It covers a lot of the trends in the logistics industry and some of the insights that here can bring. So with that, thank you. I'll hand back over to Mr. Pillai for us to continue.
Thanks, Jason, for the wonderful presentation. It was very thoughtful, and you have given some real good life example, real life example of how you have helped certain companies to tide over certain of their logistic functions, etc. That was thought provoking. Now we are moving into the next phase of the discussion. Let me take 2-3 minutes to introduce our eminent panelist right now, and then we will go into a discussion for around 30 minutes among all the panel members. So let me take a time to introduce quickly all the panel members. We have Mr. Bobby Mohan, and whenever I am actually introducing you, please wave your hand so that the audience would know you in person. Mr. Bobby Mohan is the Chief Information Officer of TVS Supply Chain Solution. Bobby has around 27 years of experience. He has put together aggressive plans that are ambitious and complex, executed them successfully. He is having deep software development experience building complex ERP and logistics solutions for multiple companies. Mr. Bobby Mohan, if you can just wave the hand. Thank you. Then I have Mr. Arun Kumar, who is the Secretary of AMTOI and Managing Director of InSynergy Supply Chain Solution. Arun Kumar is a first-generation entrepreneur with 20 years of experience in trade, starting as an assistant executive and climbing up the ladder to enterprise building. He was appointed as the honorary treasurer of the AMTOI in September 2020 and is the honorary secretary of AMTOI since September 2021. Mr. Arun Kumar. Thank you. Let me introduce Mr. Benson John, Head Supply Chain, Orient Electric. Benson John is currently working as Head Supply Chain Management at Orient Electric. Skillful and seasoned logistics and supply chain leader with 25 years of rich experience across industries, including manufacturing, trading, and engineering across sectors in Southeast Asia. He is a transformation leader for Indian logistic industry, having history of transformation operations for major Indian companies. Mr. Benson John. Thank you. Let me introduce Mr. Jason Jameson, who had the presentation. He's the Senior Vice President of Ear Technologies. Jason started his IT career and has around 25 years of experience managing sales and driving customer successes for cloud-based solutions across different markets and organizations. He joined here from IBM, where he had an executive leadership role over the past decade. Mr. Jason Jameson. And to introduce myself, I'm Jaishankar Pillai. I'm the partner for supply chain and Industry 4.0 and IoT solutions for India market. I have around 25 years of supply chain experience working for logistics and supply chain across the continents. And I would be the moderator or the key performer of this particular session, ably assisted by the panel members. Now, the way we will be going ahead with the discussion is I will put forward certain discussion points, and certain questions would be pointed to certain panel members. Doesn't matter if any of the other panel members has a point of view on that particular discussion point, please raise the hand and then we will find time to accommodate that. Okay. So let me start with the logistics planning, okay, because everything starts with a planning, and a well-planned system is the best of the, half the work is completely done. When I'm saying effective planning is basically using of the scarce resource to maximize the output. When I'm saying the scarce resource is the choice of the right provider, which are the warehouse location, route planning, and planning for contingency and risk. Okay. Now my question is to Bobby Mohan. What's the scenario of effective logistics planning in India, with or without technology? Okay, every planning and every company is not doing with technology. But a lot of planning happens in logistics sector. What's the current state of logistics planning maturity in India?
That's, I guess, a very pertinent question, Jay Shankar. And first up, thank you for having me on the panel. I think it's an honor and a privilege to be sharing space with all of you. Logistics planning and India, I guess, one thing we have to say about this vast country of ours is that even when we don't plan formally, everything happens with a plan in this country. You might end up calling it jugaad, you might end up calling it last mile knowledge, but then there is definitely a plan. So of course, even without technology
I think we lost.
coming in, we had.
There is some intermittent audio problem.
Planning out absolute logistics to the second of delivery and thinking into formal logistics or supply. The planning we have delegated completely to the people who do the driving, for them to figure out which is the best route to take, which is the best method to do, and where to do the delivery points. And probably over the last 5-7 years, with geospatial and maps making an entry into our lives in a fairly significant manner, formal planning is also picking up speed. So while we speak about optimization, while we speak about truck planning, truck optimization, load optimization, delivery optimization, etc., which were buzzwords probably about a decade or so ago, now I guess we are in a situation where we use the technologies that we have today to understand which is the right way to go. Now, definitely, even without knowing, when we set off to work every day morning, we flick on the maps and we take the best route that the map tells us to do. That to me is logistics planning. And the person who brings me my meal at work also does the same, probably on their app. So we do have the whole concept of planning for delivery, planning for efficiency built in, and it's part of our being today. The question I guess we all have to ask ourselves as logisticians is that, have we made planning, the concept of planning, and have we made it a day-to-day affair in the enterprise world, which to me is still a far way away. Now, I did see Jason's excellent presentation where, he brought in a lot of the elements that we should be adopting as a way of life. But that combined with the fact that on the ground, the infrastructure and the fact that India is such a vast country and inherent complexities of India differ from the urban and the rural areas of the country. How do we take our steps into those areas? How do we make sure that this country is available on a map, on a database for the entire population to benefit out of that? Probably should be the next big question in front of us as logisticians. And that to me would be the big shift that we see as a country in order to do the CAGR of 10% at 15% that we would want to do as an industry. So that's my take on this one, Jay.
Thank you, Bobby. Now, I'm just a second part of the question. It's to you, Jason. You have adopted or you have enabled many companies with the location technologies and platform. Did you see most of your technologies being used in planning or in execution or in both? Okay. And did you see any marked difference in execution effectiveness if a planning is properly done using your technology?
Yeah, so look, the first point is that it's used in both. The planning piece is where, you know, you look at all those constraints that you need to map, or maybe, pardon the pun, map to, but address in terms of routes, availability, etc. And then and so that will help determine, you know, when you need to deliver goods to certain locations. You can, once again, as I said, determine what type of capacity is needed, the best routes to take. Typically, this involves multiple drop-offs, multiple stops. So this becomes quite a complex traveling salesman problem to resolve. That's the planning piece. The execution is the next phase, which is, you know, getting those run sheets out to firstly, if it's trucks, for example, out to the drivers, which has all the details around pickup and drop-off points, you know, which gates to use, which docks to go to, and then being able to track progress in real time. So, you know, we do see that this is where, you know, you add that layer of location and do it in real time, where where, you know, you can quickly determine, okay, have we got an issue with ETAs? Because do we need to adjust those because, you know, this driver's running behind and we know what's on the truck, etc. You know, it's also useful for ensuring that when you're out on the road, are constraints like, you know, driver requirements, rest times, etc., being appropriately enforced, as well as proactive responses to changing conditions like traffic, weather conditions. And these are things that, you know, as we increasingly digitize the world, you could start to incorporate into the execution phase. I mean, also the planning phase, right? When it's monsoon season in India, there are roads to avoid, for example, in Mumbai, is one example, right? And you move on, you know, as you go through the vast country of India, there's many different local requirements that could be considered, particularly, you know, I said traffic's, you know, challenge. So, you know, these are the things that execution absolutely helps with as well. So, you know, I mean, and we see that in the execution phase, if you do it right, you know, this whole idea of doing the on time and full delivery, you can really see, you know, across the delivery process, you know, 10 to 25% decrease in downtime with location services. This is from warehouse to the distribution center to the end customer delivery. And then, you know, you can proactively improve customer service to end customers with alerts of any predicted delays. And so, yeah, I mean, the execution it's so broad. I could talk, it's workforce productivity, right? With resource planning, you could reduce idle times. You have 10 to 15, 20%, and then that, you know, up to 40% improvement in ETA prediction through that planning piece, and then better execution, middle and last mile. And ultimately that sort of coalesces around improving the end customer experience and increasing NPS. So this is one of those great examples where doing something that helps saves cost by better planning and better execution actually helps the end customer with improved NPS because they have better visibility and more predictability in terms of the quality of service that they can get. So yeah, I'll stop there.
Okay, thanks, Jason. Let us try to move to a very interesting and exciting another topic of logistics industry, which is warehouse management. Before we go into the further details about the technology, etc. It's a key pillar for logistics efficiency. This starts with the identification of the right location of the warehouses, consumption points, and where the supply is and where the routes are, which are the right routes to take. Stock planning and replenishment inside the warehouse is a subject of its own, correct? It's a very big subject, okay? How to do stock planning, etc. how to do consignment tracking inside the warehouse. That's another subject in its own. Okay. And last but not the least is how much automation of material handling can be actually enabled inside the warehouse. Okay. So all these are very, very important parts of the warehouse management industry. And this is very pertinent for India, where a lot of 3PL warehouses are actually coming up, and it is sprawling across the entire value chain or entire geography of the country. Okay. My question is to Benson, John. Whenever we talk about automation, there are two parts to it. Okay. One part, there is cheap manual labor which is available. Okay. And there is a possibility of involving technology to automate it. Okay. How easy is the adoption of technology with respect to the India-based conditions where cheap labor is available? And suppose you automate it more, there is a lot of employment hit which will also happen. Okay, so how companies are actually doing it? And probably you can tell that, okay, different types of warehouse, starting with a rudimentary FCI warehouse to e-tailers, most modern warehouse. No, how are they actually enabling this particular decision making?
Thank you. Hope you can hear me.
Yes.
Jay? Yeah,
Yes.
thank you. Like Jay has rightly put it, that for Indian kind of environment, what I found throughout my career or experience is, it's a tricky question. Like human-centric approach is the right way. Normally, wherever I worked, whenever we select a new warehouse location, for example, one is the route optimization, what we see the cost factors, we see the safety parameters and all this road connectivity and everything. But one prominent thing which normally we give importance is the convenience of the warehouse employees. Can they reach the warehouse maybe within half an hour, 1 hour time maximum, or when they go back in the night? The safety of the employees, can they take a normal transportation and reach their homes even if late in the night safely? So we give a lot of importance to this aspect also when we implement even automation in the warehouse. That's the first thing what we do. That's what I said, it's a human-centric approach. So we ensure the safety of the employees first and their ability to reach the warehouses. Like a warehouse operator, he might be earning a very low salary at the warehouse. So he should not be staying far away from the warehouse, so that in emergency come, he can go back to his family very fast, maybe in an hour time. That also we see when we select a new warehouse. That's the first point. Now coming into automation within the warehouse also, it was a big challenge for us initially to do automation in the warehouse, be it right from implementation of WMS itself. Like I tell you, earlier, the complete pickers in the warehouse, they were trained to pick a material. They know where the materials are kept in the warehouse. So even 1 day absence or an absence for an half a day, that was affecting the entire operations. So we were so people dependent. What we did is we took them into confidence before we move ahead with our WMS plan. We told them the convenience of having a WMS, what kind of benefits that are going to bring in for the company also and for the employee. When we said that on the barcode terminal on your hand, you can see where the material is laying and what the stock laying, and within the warehouse also, the WMS software will help them to do minimum effort to reach that material and retrieve the material and bring back to the staging area. They found it acceptable. So what we did is we took our team into confidence before going for any major change in the warehouse operations. Similarly, when we went for transport management system implementation, TMS implementation in the warehouse, the main connecting point was our drivers. The drivers were not willing to be tracked. So we told them the benefit of the customer-centric, having a customer-centric approach. What we told them is we are able to track the material, we can plan our billing and deliveries to customers better. And we told them you are one of the most important link between the company and the customer, the transport, the driver. So after a lot of resistance, they started understanding it and they started allowing us to, getting SMS or getting information from their mobile phones for tracking the consignments and everything. So my take on this, from my experience, is we should have a very human-centric approach in whatever modernization we do in our warehouses or in our transportation system. Like companies like Amazon or Flipkart, they're bringing a lot of opportunities. So without technology, they can't work. Even the people, the operators, they come into work, come for working in this environment. They're also very clear that I need to, at least I should have a basic knowledge about using a smartphone, because many of the applications in the warehouse are being run through the smartphones now, or even barcode terminals are, that you need a smartphone kind of usage experience. So that is what we did, Jay, now in our warehouse, and that is coming out very well also.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Arun, I'm just going to give you a chance, but you have a lot of experience with respect to exports, correct? And how the global markets are actually performing. So apart from the point which you wanted to add, you can also touch upon the comparison between the warehouse industry in India versus abroad, correct? And what are the main reasons for that?
Thank you, Jay. Exactly. I just wanted to compliment Benson on that particular point. See, it's not one size fits all. I mean, logistics is not about one size fitting all. What we do in a particular sector, even in India, I'm not talking global still, I'm talking within India also. What might work in a particular geography will not work in another geography. And that holds good even for warehousing. So logistics is all about adaptability. And technology should always be used as an enabler. One mistake that we land up doing is we go in an overdrive. Jason, pardon me for saying this, but we tend to, ape others in adopting technology. The technology might not be as effective or as efficient to be used in all environments. So we have to be very conscious of that fact. So I would not say that, okay, this is the best global practice. Yes, there are certain global practices which are to be adopted universally, but there are other technology factors which we should be very cautious while taking into into our systems. So because we have, now if you look at West, where human capital is relatively very expensive, it is not so expensive in India or even in China or the Southeast Asia side. So we have to mix and match what is most effective in terms of bringing out the efficiency, lowering the cost, and there is nothing which can replace human intelligence. After all, technology is all 0 and 1. So you can only play around with those two numbers. And that's the limitation you have. You cannot expect a system to be having a heart or a soul. So that is something we need to be very cautious about. And that is exactly what I was wanting to compliment Benson on that particular aspect. So I hope that answers the second question as well in terms of global.
Yes. Thank you, Arun Kumar. That was interesting. Now, let me go into the technology question also, a little bit. See, technology is one way in which the companies can adopt and adapt, correct? That's not the only way, but that's one way of adopting and adapting, correct? Now, there are different parts of technology which can be implemented in a logistics thing. One is, of course, location and identification technology and platform. Second is tracking the consignments throughout the value chain and even tracking the components inside that particular consignment. Okay. Third is basically a digital platform of collaboration between multiple players. Okay, which is also very important. Okay. And fourth is enabling the people on the ground with a platform for consumption. Okay, so you might have a large enterprise-wide system enabled for logistics, but people on the ground are not able to access it at the right time with smartphones and handhelds, etc., or even receive SMS and notifications for the arrival of a particular shipment or a delay of a shipment. The technology cannot actually succeed. Okay. My question to the entire team is, which sort of technologies are getting easily adapted in India, and some technologies are not getting easily adapted in India. Okay. So if any of you have any commentary on what is your opinion of the hot technologies getting adapted in India by logistics company, and is there any reason why the other technologies are not getting adapted? Okay, so that's the first part of the question. The second part of the question is the complexity and I would say the vividity of the logistics industry in India. Okay, because there are multiple players, multiple regions, multiple sizes. Okay, local players, global players, domestic, national players, all working on the same tandem. Okay. So how is the companies like Orient or TVS, etc., enabling this particular collaboration between multiple players? Okay, so two parts to this question. Any of you can answer the first part of the question where I wanted to know which are the technologies being easily adopted in India. And the second part of the question is either to Bobby or to Benson to say that, okay, how you people are seeing collaboration coming up with multiple players.
So I'll take the first part of the question, which is to do with which are the technologies which are easily adopted and which are the technologies which are not being very well accepted in the supply chain. You'll be surprised. My personal experience on this is that while we are very thoughtful and we are very eager to have visibility, we don't want visibility. Now, this is a paradox. This is really a strange paradox. We developed a system, ERP system in our organization a long time back, almost 8-9 years back. Benson is aware of it. And you'll be surprised. We have nearly 450 odd customers, and there are 3 who are using it. And it is all about end-to-end visibility. But the thing is, and I was surprised. I mean, I could not believe it that why would a person not want, a person particularly into supply chain not want visibility? This is something that I'm still baffled. I still don't understand. But the fact is that people do not want it. That's very strange, but it's true. So that kind of visibility, maybe it is because they don't want to get stuck with one single service provider. They are opting to go with multiple service providers, and they're saying, okay, suppose I have to go on multiple service providers, then tracking my shipments on multiple platforms could be a challenge. So maybe we require one common platform, but that's not going to happen because there is, data security issues. There are various kind of nuances placed in that. So maybe that is one reason why that adaptability is less in terms of people wanting to, get the visibility directly. What is being actually adopted is in bits and pieces, in silos. So if I want a shipment being very critical, I will track it on 30 websites, I don't care. But when it is something very routine, I will not even look at it. I'm good with a DSR, which I'll never read. That is how it works. And I have had companies requesting DSR on an Excel sheet. And we tell them, okay, listen, we have all the data you want here, one go. And they say, no, we don't want it. Please give us an Excel sheet which goes from starts from A and goes to ZA. And probably they'll say, okay, just fill up all the fields and send it to me. And I'm certain they will never ever look at it because it's impossible. So these are the difficulties. What is being most adopted is probably tracking, which is on and off basis in silos. So I think that is the first part of it. Second part, Benson, go on it.
Yeah, actually, knowing Arun for a long time, I know he has put a lot of efforts in his industry. I think he is one of the first corporates to have this MIS made that is automated, and he was pushing the clients to accept it. I know it. And one thing I appreciate, Arun, is you developed it of your own,
Yeah.
without help from anybody. Now, coming to this question, Jay and Arun and Jason, see, we were also going through this transformation phase in our companies, especially in our company. So we selected some of the key projects for, like, we want to become, we set a target for next 5 years, and we want to be digitally oriented completely. Okay. So one of the projects what they selected for digitalization of operations is transport management system, apart from Salesforce automation and DMS, dealer management software. So the biggest pushback I got from my sales team is, I don't want to track my material. I was surprised. Same thing what Arun said. They said, I don't want to track material. You're sending me material on time. I don't want to track my material. I told my sales team, I was selling this idea. I told them, see, the kind of, you're standing in front of a customer and you're able to tell the customer on your mobile saying that your material is going to be reaching today evening or tomorrow. So it's going to be 1 day late. So you can arrange some alternate material from somewhere else. So the kind of joy you'll be having in decision making will be much faster, because you can have a SAP system on your mobile. It's very difficult to have reports and everything. If you are getting information, like one sales guy is linked to a particular customer and this customer is linked to a particular warehouse, so he exactly knows when the material is going to be reaching the counter of the customer. So we found it very difficult initially. Nowadays, now they're enjoying. Now they start asking us back, Benson, when is this material going to come to my customer place? So what we did is we started sending SMS to my sales team linked to the customer. Customer also gets an SMS. When the material is delivered, the customer, again, was the biggest challenge. The customer was not ready to press a button of acceptance on their mobile phone regarding material receipt. So what we did is we did extensive tours to the customers. We did various training programs with the customers and the sales team to educate. Now, slowly they start accepting and they started referring to my TMS software on their mobile application. So this is happening. So the initial struggle is much higher than what we thought. Like Amazon material, if I am ordering something, I am ready to track. But if I'm a businessman, I don't want to track my materials coming into my shop. Typical different scenarios. So that is changing now. That transformation is happening in India. I remember some 15 years back when I was in Korea, that time itself, 80% of the business was carried out through mobile applications. So some kind of Amazon they were doing online. So they also said the initial resistance was very high, but now the entire world is going for digital and the acceptance is coming in. So like Maxine Gorky said once, revolution has to start from home. So what we did is we transformed our guys within the company. Then they become messengers for TMS, for example, to the customers, and now there is an acceptance.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ben.
I think if I could, I think what it highlights is there's absolutely the people dimension to driving any change in an industry, and technology has to be an enabler, but ultimately what's it enabling? It's enabling the people in that industry to do better work and support their end customers better. So I completely understand the local examples there. However, I will say, we've done some projects, and what's interesting, sometimes the resistance to visibility is there's different reasons. One's change, another is that it disrupts unanticipated business models. For example, let's say that you're a concrete company delivering concrete, and you're wondering why, when you load, 15 cubic meters into the truck, only 12 cubic meters get delivered at the building site. And by tracking the truck, you work out actually it's had an unintended stop somewhere. And it's offloaded 3 cubic meters to help someone build a swimming pool. And this is a real example that has popped up. And so drivers, of course, don't want to have that side business model get disrupted because they're getting cash for doing that. But it addresses corporate loss and things like that. So, there's one example, and the other is we've seen building, some factories are starting to move beyond even IoT 4.0, even in India, greenfield manufacturing sites using real-time visibility of supply chain and when materials are going to arrive, and have factory production lines running without even a manufacturing execution system. In other words, they're just getting real-time insights when things are turning up and then building based on what they know how to construct or build the end product in real time. So, India's got some really great examples that are really leading edge. And also, as you've said, then the other element is just automating within the silos, be it within the warehouse, optimizing, I should say, not just automating, getting visibility inside just simple functions and doing it silo by silo. And all of those are perfectly valid examples. But ultimately, you're absolutely right. Driving change, all about people. And India has a vast resource of very educated, for the most part, huge labor force that is very well priced. So there's different dynamics for sure.
Thank you, Jason. Now, I'm just, it's an interesting part of adoption, correct? How people are adopting to technologies and how is it actually the basic recipe for success, correct? Now, I'm looking into another aspect of logistics, okay? And now, you like it or not, logistics is a people-intensive business, correct? There are a lot of truckers, there are a lot of forwarding agents, there are a lot of people who are loading, unloading, distributors. All these are people-intensive business, correct? One is, of course, technology, platform, adoption, planning, all that things is fine. But finally, the people has to be motivated to perform well or be exemplar in performing, okay? Now, it's very difficult in a market segment like India where there is huge disparity among the education level of the manpower also, how to keep people motivated, okay? So are there any shining examples by which you keep motivating the drivers, correct, to perform very well, okay, or to bring a particular thing without any pilferage? So my question is to Bobby and Arun Kumar, because it is a people business finally. Are there any examples by which you have incentivized your people to perform better? Because finally your efficiency will be derived from the people performing better, correct?
Let me go first on this one. I hope that's fine, Arun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So at TVS Supply Chain, I guess, one key thing that we do as a company is that the whole driver ecosystem is also considered to be part of the company. So that essentially is different from the whole the ethos that the group holds, where we value the employees as well as all the partners who make us successful. So the driver ecosystem is something that we keep very close, starting with training schools that we run with OEMs, with our partners on training drivers, on making sure that they have the best practices, on aiding drivers on better health techniques, on how to be safe. For example, during the COVID season, the 2 years of utter lockdown and chaos that we had in the country, we had to keep our wheels running because we were doing essential deliveries. And we were among the first companies in India who started off with the COVID coverage for every driver and every assistant that the driver came, which included not just the security equipment, but also food that would last the entire duration of the trip. So we extend ourselves into the driver's life so that it becomes an emotional bond with the company. The second thing, of course, is that while on one side is the whole emotional aspect, structurally we are the planning of the trips happen in a way that is quite safe and advantageous for the driver. So as a rule, we forbid drivers from driving between 12 midnight and 4 a.m. And that's when the entire delivery duration is scheduled in such a way that 4-hour downtime is something that we plan as part of the delivery cycle. So you won't find us, in a way agreeing to 10-minute deliveries, so to say. So that's something that we do as a company. We understand that, it's that 12 to 5 or 12 to 4 is when accidents are prone to happen. So we extend ourselves to make that happen. We give drivers quick tips on the route that they're doing, if it's a new route that they have from the origin, and we tell them on what they should be aware of, what areas they should avoid, so on and so forth. So I guess while on one side it's about the culture of the company, the way you would want to extend yourself as a partner, it is also about making sure that the processes within the company are also derived in a sense that adds value and the drivers feel engaged with you, and that the whole ecosystem keeps coming back for more. So to me, it's a virtuous cycle of adding value and value getting returned to you, and then the cycle moving on.
Great, Bobby. Good thoughts on that. Arun, do you want to?
Yeah. So I completely concur with Bobby on that point. However, there is a culture which is there in India, and you'll be surprised, or maybe not, that you require very, very little to motivate a driver. And we did this study around 12, 14 years back, when while we were, we used to do port clearances and then move the goods out, there were certain clients where the drivers never refused to go, and they would immediately, they would actually fight for those documents, those containers to be moved. While on the other side, there were few consignments which they would never want to touch. So we were wondering, why is that happening? So we did a study on that. You'll be surprised. Xerox, I'm just naming the client. When we had a consignment for Xerox, our drivers will queue up. Ki saab, we have a consignment today. Can I be the driver for that consignment? Can I take that load? And we used to wonder why. So we checked up with Xerox. What Xerox has done is they really take care of the drivers when the drivers reach for destuffing the container at the factory. So they have a facility for drivers where the drivers can rest. They'll call the drivers to the dock when the destuffing is over. And then the drivers can go back. Food is provided free of cost, a little bit of respect, and that's all was the motivator. On the other side, where drivers were treated like shit, and this is one very sad fact of this country, we treat our drivers very bad. Forget about commercial drivers. Take our drivers, our chauffeurs for the car. How much respect do we give them? Actually, this is a culture we need to change in terms of, motivating our people. I've seen my drivers, they may be as happy with the company as they are. As Bobby was saying, we can do a lot of stuff on them. They'll still not want to carry a particular consignment, because when they reach the destination, they are treated like shit. And that is a very sad fact, which we need to change. I was speaking to a very dear friend who's the president of ITWA, and he was saying that they're running short of drivers. Drivers don't want their children, or nobody wants to become a driver anymore. So while they're saying you can introduce trucks, you can introduce state-of-the-art machinery, who's going to drive them? There are no drivers. And that is the culture we have made for ourselves, which is very sad. We need to change this. So my point is, the human factor is extremely important. Give some respect. That is the motivation. They don't want any further motivation. And we don't do that. We don't do that often.
I think I fully agree with what Arun has said. See, the human-centric approach in this case is very important. There is a huge shortage of drivers, like Arun has mentioned. Drivers are not there. And any driver, they don't want become, even they don't want their son to become a driver. So one of the things what we did in the past was we conducted free AIDS tests. Like many of them are having many like these kind of diseases. So we offered them free kits and everything for testing AIDS and other diseases. And other thing, but when we hire, I was in hire earlier. So when we started the new factory at Pune and Noida, one thing what we ensured was we made separate restrooms for the drivers with TVs and everything, with basic snacks and everything. So, like Arun said, they wanted to come back to the factories or the loading points because they know they can sit in the comfort of an AC, they can watch TV, so they can spend some nice time. So the approach in the Indian industry need to be changed. We need to be more human-centric on drivers because there's a huge shortage of drivers in India.
We better take care of them, otherwise we won't find trucking easy anymore.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Benson. Thank you, Arun, for raising this particular point, and Bobby for some of the insights on how we are taking care of the people part of it. Since we are running out of time, I'm just going to the last question, which is on sustainability part of it. Okay, how we are actually going ahead with respect to sustainability. When you are talking about sustainability, there are multiple elements to it. Okay, there can be eco-sensitive packaging part of it, weight load optimization part of it, route optimization, which is important part of it, or even abolishment of toll plazas, which is actually going to actually increase your productivity of transportation by many folds, correct? Multimodal transportation, including a combination of railways and waterways, okay, how well we can actually adopt. So multiple facets to it, and last mile connectivity or logistics using EVs, etc. Okay, but all said and done, we know that, okay, there are different parts to assign sustainability part of it or to enable a green planet. But my question to the panel is, how invested are the companies onto this particular idea? Okay, is it something on their CEO's agenda or CFO's agenda that, okay, I want to make the operation sustainable? Okay, or is it something like a CSR item for them? Okay, or is it a real KPI which companies are actually doing? Okay, that's the first part of the question. The second part of the question is, suppose we have to move in this particular direction in India. Are there any policy changes the government also needs to actually bring? Okay, so that logistics become much more energy efficient, much more carbon neutral, much more safer in the planet and for its constituents. Anybody who wants to take these questions can take it, and we are almost getting time for the Q&A from the audience, correct? So
I think I will just take 1 minute. See, we were taking a warehouse recently in Kubli. Okay, we take a lot of warehouses because based on the business plans and everything. Normally, we put conditions across to the landlord. Okay, if it is a BTS model. This time, when we went to select a warehouse, surprisingly, we found that he's doing rain harvesting. Okay, he is doing insulation. He's doing like fire complaints anyway, it is compulsory. And he started doing gardening in front of the warehouses and everything. He has made a cafeteria and everything. So even before the customer demands, the supplier knows, okay, this is what the customer is expecting from this. So there's a good transformation happening in this warehousing industry also. So before even company demands, they're offering these things. So that's a good change, Jay, I have seen in the recent cases. So even the new warehouses coming up with all these big players, they are complying to all environment things, be it open space and everything, or even the parking lots and everything, rain harvesting, even they're putting big solar plants for power and everything. So this transformation is slowly happening in Indian industry now. That's a good change, I'm observing. Thank you.
I completely agree with Benson on this. It has to be a slow process. You cannot expect overnight changes when it comes to sustainability. There is a cost involved. Sometimes it's a cost positive. For example, if you see during the pandemic, God forbid, the pandemic should never happen again, but there's a good thing that happened, and which is again using of technology. To Jason's compliment, I mean, we are doing a VC here. So otherwise we would travel. I mean, we would go take our cars, probably travel some distance and sit in some conference room and do this. But we are not doing that. So that has saved. Looking at India's international logistics sector, where customs is a major part. Now, earlier we used to do a lot of paperwork had to be given to customs. In India, we file almost like 40,000 documents a day. in terms of imports and exports. So 40,000 documents, and if you just put 10 documents per file, you're talking a huge amount of paper. Beyond that 10 documents, there would be 10 other documents which would be wasted at the back end. Customs went completely paperless during this pandemic time. There was no paper required. It is all digital. You can just go online. It is EDI. It's working fantastically. So that was one positive change that came, that to the consumer. Now I'm the consumer for that part. It saved my company a lot of paper in terms of cost, but it also saves the environment in terms of lesser trees going down. So yes, sustainability where it becomes cost positive or profit positive, let's say, is always good. But when there is a cost involved in terms of sustainability or doing something which will add to the cost of the goods, ultimately it is the consumer who's going to pay for it. It is not the companies. Companies never pay for anything. Initially, company will pay for it, but it will get loaded to the cost to the consumer. So it's at the cost of competition that you'll have to do it. So this change will come. It will come by acceptance from the community in large. It has to be like my son or my kid. They are more aware of the, sustainability part than we were. So now they will tell us, oh, don't do this. Please don't take this plastic bag. So this is the kind of culture you have to build it to, take this forward. It cannot be just overnight. That's my take on this.
Thanks, Arun, for that insights. So I think it is time for us to wrap up the discussion and then gives at least some time for the audience to the question. So we started with the planning, how the Jugaad planning is slowly getting into the formal planning, etc., and how India is slowly progressing towards a better planning cycle in logistics. Okay, that was the first part of the discussion. The second part of the discussion was which technologies are getting easily adopted in India and which technologies are not getting easily adopted. So we discussed about technology adoption happening in silos, but then the example of how transport management systems were adopted after some initial resistance, etc., once enablement happens in chunks with respect to people involvement. That's the second part of the discussion. Third, on the warehouse management, we discussed how location technologies are actually helping warehouses to move further, how automation is helping, what are the limits of automation in a country like India, and probably a fact that, okay, one size does not fit at all. There are changes in the different geographies in India compared to West, what can be adopted in India, etc., etc. But we thought and we found it and to come to conclusion that warehouse management is up for a large change with respect to automation, inventory practices, etc., for the years to come. Okay. The next point was on the people part of it, where we discussed the importance of taking people into consideration. Bobby explained what are the steps being taken to make people, drivers, etc., part of their business plan and partnership, etc., how companies are doing it, and how we should change our culture with respect to showing more respect and alignment to these people so that our industry will thrive. And last but not the least, on sustainability part of it, we came to a conclusion that, okay, there are a lot of things being done, which is maybe a slow process, and probably it has to be a cost positive factor by which adoption can be better aligned. Okay, so those are some of the broad level conclusions, and thank you for all of you. You people have been really wonderful in giving practical insights to this particular topic. There are certain questions which I would like to take in the remaining of the time. There is a question from Mr. Atul Jain, Head of Supply Chain North, Nestle India. He's asking that the freight market is very fragmented, especially the last mile connectivity. How can we understand the need of the hour and then start adopting to this particular fragmentation? Okay, so probably I think the question is mostly related to the last mile connectivity, what are the improvements being done in India and how to take it forward? Bobby, if you want to attempt that particular question.
Yep, I would be happy to do that, Jai. Thank you. And well, I guess in India, the last mile is the biggest mile, right? Because you could reach all the way up to wherever you would want, but from there to get to the address is definitely.
I think there is a audio problem. Are you people able to hear Bobby?
It's a challenge. There are a few things happening. One, of course, I guess over the last 5 years. So today, our ability to reach is definitely much more better. Two, the networks are getting much more stronger. For example, at TVS Supply Chain Solutions, our last mile network is now growing, is much more wider, covering a host of pin codes, which go into 5 digits today. So that definitely companies are investing in creating networks that take things to the last mile, to the deepest last mile on that front. The third most important point that I think which is aiding in that is the fact that the mobile network coverage across the country is growing very fast. And that to me basically means that you are able to access information at the farthest point of the chain, and you're able to be tracking, tracing, and doing whatever it takes according to that. And four, with mobile phones being what they are, being ubiquitous and being an extended part of our body today, I think even those people who are far away at the rural parts of India, in different nooks and crannies of the country, are quite caught up in terms of what technology can provide, and there is very little change management that you would need to get them coming up. So a combination of these factors, and definitely the fact that with the pandemic we were forced to go tech, has made things a lot better. You have a better network out there, you have better coverage, you have better technology, and you have better mobile connectivity out there. So I guess it's only going to get better going forward, and the country is going to shrink in a sense, as I would see it.
Okay. The next question is from Mr. Anish Nair, Head Logistics Acer. The question is basically on the location and GPS data, and I would address that to Jason. So the question is like the current percentage of accuracy observed in GPS data. That's the first part of the question. And is it getting better, and what are the challenges which people are having before adopting the location awareness data? Jason, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so firstly, location, like pinpoint precision, is something that has been mastered. Give you an example. As a company, here's mapped something like 11 to 12 million kilometers in high definition around cities around the world, and that's to 1 centimeter resolution. And with using GNSS location technology, which really uses both GPS and other types of location technology, we can pinpoint vehicles to 1 centimeter on the road. So the actual and that can be that tracking and location precision can be applied to trackers on pallets, etc. Of course, it's augmented with things like differential GPS. We all know our cell phones, when we get our location, it's also augmented by a cell tower to quickly get our fix where we are in space, so to speak. And that's so that there's a high degree of precision in GPS location. The real question is, what do you do with that? And why do we? I mean, if you look at where the future is headed, this sort of level of precision, in fact, the here and now, allows for autonomous vehicles, right, to place them precisely on the road based on a very accurate map. You have an HD high definition map of where you are. And you have to have that high degree of precision. You can have a lot of, move down the autonomous path, and that will at some point, with the right infrastructure, transform transportation, logistics, shipping, etc. for road transport. So it's here and now. Probably the biggest issue is taking that location precision and getting that visibility, the insights, the where and when, and then using that to improve supply chain and logistics, and all that multimodal, all those handoffs, etc. So that's what that's really how I'd answer that question.
Thank you, Jason. There is a question from Mr. Amardeep Kurukwar. He's asking about the challenges faced by logistics software development companies in understanding the customer needs and how to resolve this. Let me try to answer this question in a brief way. We have only 3-4 minutes left. So from my experience of addressing this logistics software development, 2-3 challenges are there with respect to how companies are approaching it. There is a thought process in many companies saying that, okay, one particular solution is fit for all customers, which is not true. Okay, you may have a base solution platform developed, but different customers, different companies have changes to that particular application according to their particular needs. So you must not go into the market with a perception that I will develop a software platform or an application which will be easily adopted by any consumer companies without any customization. That's not going to happen. That's one part of the development. The second part of the development which you need to actually take care is you should not try to actually go ahead and then do a point solution. Okay, what I mean to say, try to be part of a platform. Okay, and that's taking clue from you, Jason, also. You probably wanted to have your technology or solution embedded on your AWS platform. Probably that's an easier way of adopting and adaptation from the market. Okay, so unless and otherwise your solution is part of a platform, there might be a little bit of problem in adopting with multiple customers. Okay, that's one thing which I can think about. And even for things like collaboration, etc., to multiple players, etc., the secure way of handling data and exchange of data is absolutely important. Okay, many companies underestimate this particular part of it. You can exchange data in umpteen number of ways, but unless and otherwise it is secure, unless and otherwise it is actually audited and what needs to be shared, etc., there is no way in which companies will adopt it. Okay, you may sign up for a lot of collaboration, but unless that particular secure way of adoption is actually not happening, it will not actually happen. That's the 3 things which I thought is very important for software development companies to think through before they come up and propose certain solutions to the market. Okay, I think we are almost at the end of the hour. Thanks a lot to all panel members. It was a very great information sharing and knowledge sharing from all of you. I hope you also share that same sentiments. Any last thoughts from all of you before we end up this particular session?
Very well organized, and thank you, Jay, for giving us this opportunity. I think it was a learning experience for all of us. We are not just sharing our experience, we are also learning in this particular discussion. So let's take this forward. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'd say I'll add to that. It's been a great opportunity to hear from real life examples, and I think the key point is that technology can solve challenges. Location intelligence can be applied, but the people aspect is the critical for driving positive change. So I think it was very good that came up today, and really great to hear that.
Thank you. And last but not the least, many thanks for CII to organize such a session on logistics. Very, very thoughtful about them, and giving all of us an opportunity to interact with all of us and then come to this particular session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Back to you, CII.